Shalom. Like to give all honor, glory, and praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Rakakwadash, like your double honors to our apostles and elders, great millstone. Salutations to our sincere Akim, pushing his word out across the four corners of the world. Just a quick lesson concerning this article from nationalnews.com, and the title says, Pushing for World War III. U.S. military-industrial complex continues to escalate conflict with economic sanctions. And this was published on March the 14th, 2022. And it says, NATO's relentless push for anti-Russian hatred across the global economy could force China to retaliate if its own businesses end up getting punished in all the fray. CNBC's Eunice Yoon joined the Squawk Box the other day to talk about how China is being backed into a corner amid escalating sanctions against Russia, which are also impacting other nations that do business with Russia. The U.S. military-industrial complex, which includes media, religion, the technology sector, and of course the government, are all now engaging in open xenophobia against Russia in response to the Ukraine invasion. And xenophobia means having a fear of a stranger or a foreigner. So concerning this Russian-Ukrainian situation that's currently going on, you're seeing America utilizing that main witchcraft tool, going into this mass media programming. And they are in high gear pushing this Russian propaganda, either on social media websites, on TV programming, cartoons, magazines, sports. Everybody's talking about this Russian-Ukrainian situation. So the person who wrote this article is definitely right. It's like almost they're all on reading from the same script, because it's all systematically designed by the heads or the international bankers of Esau Edom, who's pushing this chaos that's going on in order to bring forth this global transformation, aka this NWO. So by stating that the United States military-industrial complex, which includes media, religion, the technology sector, and of course the government, which pretty much sums up Jeremiah the 51st chapter, how Babylon, referring to America, has been that golden cup in Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai's hands. And concerning that cup, what's in it? It's that poisonous wine. And that's going into the ways of Esau's ideologies, his philosophies, his new world order, which is the image of the beast. And everybody's consuming this Babylonian wine except for the hopeful elect of the nation of Israel. And you do have so-called truthers who know what's going on behind the scenes. So let's get that right quick concerning this Babylonian wine. In Revelation the 17th chapter, starting at verse 1. And it says, And there came one of the seven angels which had the seven vials, and that's going into the destruction of America, and talked with me, saying unto me, Come hither, I will show unto thee the judgment of the great whore, referring to America, known as Babylon the Great, that sitteth upon many waters, many people, or many nations. Verse 2, with whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication. And that's going into that Babylonian wine, which is poisonous. It's not beneficial for your well-being. And that's why these other nations, when they come over here to America, or they adopt the American way of life, they become consumed, they become corrupted off the wine of her fornication, especially our people, because by default, you do not supposed to be adhering to the ways of these other nations, because they're going to further keep you separated from your power source, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. Therefore, you'll be spiritually disconnected. So you'll be spiritually open out here. But just concerning these natural Gentiles, they have been corrupted off the ways of America. They have put off the ways of their ancient customs, and they have accepted the ways of that great whore, referring to America. So the writer of this article caught my attention by stating almost like they are all reading from the same script, because this is all engineered by the heads of Esau Edom, going to these international bankers. And to further prove that, let's get one of these international bankers by the name of John D. Rockefeller. And this is a quote that he made, I want to say it happened in 1991 at the Bilderberg Group meeting in Germany. And he said, We are grateful to the Washington Post, the New York Times, Time Magazine, and other great publications whose directors have attended our meetings and respected their promises of discretion for almost 40 years. It would have been impossible for us to develop our plan for the world if we had been subjected to the lights of publicity during those years. But the world is more sophisticated and prepared to march towards a world government. The supranational sovereignty of an intellectual elite and world bankers is surely preferable to the national autodetermination practice in past centuries. And this is going to the verge of this global transformation. And you could just Google search NWO quotes, and you will see all types of higher ups within the society concerning these international bankers on down to these lesser luminaries. They are all in that same script or program to push forward this NWO, from the greatest to the least. And this is a journalist I came across by the name of John Swinton. He was the chief editorial writer of the New York Times during the decade of the 1860s. And he stated this by exposing the so-called independent press at that time frame. I'll try to maximize it some. And he said, "There is no such thing at this date of the world's history in America as an independent press. You know it and I know it. There is not one of you who dares to write your honest opinions, and if you did, you know beforehand that it will never appear in print. I am paid weekly for keeping my honest opinion out of the paper I am connected with. Others of you are paid similar salaries for similar things. And any of you who would be so foolish as to write honest opinions would be out on the streets looking for another job. If I allowed my honest opinions to appear in one issue of my paper, before 24 hours my occupation would be gone. The business of the journalist is to destroy the truth." I'll read that again. The business of the journalist is to destroy the truth, to lie outright, to pervert, to vilify, to fund at the feet of Mammon, and to sell his country and his race for his daily bread. You know it and I know it. And what folly is this toasting an independent press? We are the tools and vassals of rich men behind the scenes. And that's going to these international bankers. And that's why they're also known as the hidden ones, because they're all behind the scenes of all these different casualties, these wars, all these different false flags that's going on throughout the world in today's time, even back in the past. And that's why Mayor Rothschild's wife stated, "If my sons did not want wars, there would not be any," which is further proven all wars are bankers' wars. So going back to this quote, he stated, "We are the tools and vassals of rich men behind the scenes. We are the jumping jacks. They pull the strings and we dance. Our talents, our possibilities, and our lives are all the property of other men. We are intellectual prostitutes." And he stated this in 1880. And that takes me to the book of Psalm 140:1. And this is from our forefather King David. And it says, "Deliver me, O the Heavenly Father Yahweh, from the evil man. Preserve me from the violent man." Who's that referring to? He was speaking through the Spirit. He was prophesying about Esau, Edom, who are the workers of iniquity, the evildoers. That's why it's mentioned in the book of Revelation, the 6th chapter and the 4th verse, how there went out another horse that was red, and power was given to him that set their own to take peace from the earth. And what was given to him? A great sword. And that can come into many different fashions and forms. We already know with his military might, his drones, things of that sort, his economic war. But what about his lies, his propaganda, his mischiefs and ill doings? That's a part of his sword as well. That lying tongue, which has enticed all these nations, including 2/3 of our people, to drink the wine of her fornication. Verse 2, "Which imagine mischiefs in their heart, going to malicious thoughts. Continually are they gathered together for war." Verse 3, "They have sharpened their tongues like a serpent. Adder's poison is under their lips." Salah. And the reason why I'm bringing this out through the Spirit, because when we know something just from past history, how Esau keep using his propaganda concerning this mainstream media, he just keep publicizing it throughout the whole day on all these different social media sites, all these different TV channels. Just keep programming the people. And that's how you know through the Spirit concerning this Russian-Ukrainian situation that they have a hand in this concerning these international bankers. But on the flip side, we already know through the Spirit, ultimately, this is all the doings and the workings of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua. Because even though this is systematically designed by Esau Edom, who is utilizing Esau Edom at the end of the day, which is Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua. And that's why it's stated in Proverbs the 21st chapter, how the king's heart or his mind is in the hand of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua. And as the rivers of waters, he will turn it whithersoever he will. So at the end of the day, this is all the counsel of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua. He's just playing with Esau Edom, beginning with the heads of them, thinking that they're going to fulfill this enterprise mentioned in the book of Job, the 5th chapter. So jumping back to the article, it says, despite the presence of Pentagon-run bioweapons laboratories throughout Ukraine and the constant encroachment of NATO towards the Russian border over the past several decades, We are all somehow supposed to believe that Vladimir Putin is the bad guy in all this for basically protecting his own borders. The US could learn a thing or two from Putin about the importance of protecting one's own borders. It turns out, but I digress, the Chinese Foreign Ministry said that if the US sanctions Chinese companies, that China would respond firmly and forcefully. Yo explained during the CNBC segment. China also warned that the US is operating dangerous biolabs in Ukraine, calling the corporate-controlled media machine in the US an empire of lies, which represents America, Babylon the Great. Reading to Isaiah the 24th chapter, it stated how America is that city of confusion, going to the city of disorder, the city of chaos. So through the Spirit, we know that Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua is not the author of confusion. So what's going to happen to the city that's pushing out this propaganda, which is confusion, and it's really destroying the minds of these other nations? He's going to destroy the landmass of America very soon. And this is the empire of lies. And that leads me to the book of Nahum, the 3rd chapter, starting verse 1. Woe or destruction to the bloody city, and that's referencing to America, again known as Babylon the Great. So this place is bloodthirsty, and just think about how this so-called country has been established by violence, by bloodshed. On a righteous balance, it's going to be taken out by violence and bloodshed. So woe to the bloody city, it is all full of lies and robbery. The prey departed not. And the prey is referencing to the lost sheep of the house of Israel, aka the biblical Israelites. That's why it's stated in Zephaniah the 2nd chapter, O nation not desired. So woe to the bloody city is all full of lies and robbery, the prey departed not. So anything that's constantly being pushed on mainstream news, you always have to question it, and always think through the Spirit who's behind the scenes of this. It's always going to point out to the tabernacle of Edom, beginning with the higher ups of them, these international bankers, because they are all into the chaos that's going into this Russian-Ukrainian situation, and they're going to bring that order of Arkeo, which means to bring order out of chaos. And that's by the means of implementing this global transformation, aka this new world order. And like I stated earlier, Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua is really playing chess with them. He's playing the game with the minds of the elites of Esau Edom. Because starting with this so-called pandemic, along with this global supply chain crisis, look at the chaos has came out from it. A lot of people lost jobs, homes. You have the inflation levels higher than ever, which is causing disruption within this global system. So right now, the elites of Esau Edom, they are thinking that they have their I's dotted, their T's crossed. But pursuant to the book of Ezekiel, the 38th chapter, some way, somehow, Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua is stated how he's going to come into the minds of these other nations and to make them think an evil thought. And after that, that's when they're going to go up to the land of unwalled villages, referring to America, which is going to involve nuclear war. So of course, we are excited by the times that we are in, because we know that this situation is brewing up with Russia and Ukraine, and also these other world power nations are trying to get involved. It's going to soon kindle into World War III, which is going to be the finalization of America. So even though you still have the mass majority of the people are in total gross darkness, but at the same time, you still have a lot of people who are waking up to the lies of America, which is really the spirit of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua by instituting truth or order back into this world again. So everything is becoming exposed, and everybody's seeing the so-called darkness of Esau Edom, beginning with these international bankers. And that's what made them so powerful and strong, because their strength was their secrecy. So now the so-called Illuminati, or the enlightened ones, everybody's finding out about them and how they have been the hand behind all these different wars and false flags that has taken place upon this earth. And that leads me to the book of Obadiah 1-6. How are the things of Esau searched out? How are his hidden things sought up? And that's by the spirit of Yahushua, which represents the spirit of truth. And he's putting into the minds of these people to find out the true wickedness of Esau Edom, beginning with America, which we just read, which is the empire of lies. And that's why this Jake back in the Dark Ages by the name of William Shakespeare, he was a great playwright, poet, and actor. And this was a famous quote that he stated: all the world's a stage, all the men and women merely players. They have their exits and their entrances. So on a carnal level, The elites of Esau Edom has all these different politicians, all these lesser luminaries in the palms of their hands. That's why everybody's vocalizing about this global transformation, artificial intelligence, human robotics, human cyborgs, trusted science. The list goes on, which fulfills how all these nations are partaking into the image of the beast. But on a spiritual level, it's really the workings of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua, because this movie, what we call life, he controls these international bankers on down to all these different kings of these other nations, and on down to these regular people that we see in our daily walks, even us as well. And that's why it's stated in Isaiah the 46th chapter, the Most High said, "And my counsel should stand, I would do all my pleasure." So this movie, what we call life, is really all the workings of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua. We're just the characters having our exits and our interests in this movie. Everybody's playing their parts for Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua. And now within this movie, what we call life, everything is coming out to the light about the main antagonist, Esau Edom, which is considered the bad guy. He's opposed to the protagonist, Jacob, which represents the good guy, starring with the hopeful elect. So how are the things of Esau Edom searched out? How are his hidden things sought up? And that's by the spirit of truth, which leads me right to Luke 8:17. For nothing is secret that should not be made manifest. So concerning the so-called Illuminati and how they been in power over so many years, had all that type of control, and the biggest strength of their world dominance was their secrecy. So according to biblical prophecy, for nothing is secret. So everything is coming out to the light in these last days that should not be made manifest, neither anything hid that should not be known and come abroad. So the Heavenly Father, Yahweh, through his son, Yahweh Shai, is bringing everything to the light. Everything's being exposed by truth. So going back to this article, pushing for World War III, U.S. military-industrial complex continues to escalate conflict with economic sanctions. So now hopefully you have a better understanding how this is nothing but Esau's propaganda, but at the same time, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua are the ultimate supplanters. And they are supplanting the international bankers. It's going to lead into World War III. And that's going to lead into the destruction of America, known as Babylon the Great, and the downfall of Esau Edom, and the uprising of righteousness, which represents Yahweh Shai, along with his governing body, which represents the hopeful elect. So as you can see, we are definitely in some exciting times. And Abaratazat, you always edify, you all stay strong, keep pushing forward. Shalom.